Hi there, this is Linda from Let's Talk Prepping, and I wanted to bring you up to date on what's going on in the world. And I was going to do something general on supply chain shortages, but I thought we'd look at the fertilizer problem and see what we as individuals can do and how we can help ourselves. Basically, how is the fertilizer shortage going to affect us? And then what can we do as individuals to protect ourselves? So the first thing, I was over here at naturalnews.com, and major European fertilizer producer closes manufacturing plants. Crop failures, food scarcity, runaway inflation on the way. That sounds really bad. So I'd like to go through and talk about the fertilizer problems and then see if we can find some way to help ourselves so that it doesn't bother us as much. And 2 fertilizer plants in the United Kingdom have shut down because of energy. Some are blaming China. Is a global famine on the horizon? Fertilizer shortage is an essentially serious problem because it threatens to starve out much of the world if it is not remedied and soon. With our modern farming, we basically need a steady stream of fertilizer in order to produce the food that we do. And without fertilizer, we're going to be in a bit of trouble. So let's look at another one here. This is from DC Clothesline, another domino in the coming manufactured worldwide famine. Major European fertilizer producer closes plants. And this again is November 10th, 2021. I failed to look at the date on the last one. If we go down here, we see the UN is now admitting that the pandemic could spark famines of biblical proportions. Now that's the UN. Over at Natural News, Ethan Huff asks, is a global famine on the horizon? And it appears there might be one. The fertilizer shortage is a serious problem. With industrial food production having become the norm throughout much of the planet, the entire food supply now relies on a steady stream of fertilizer to continue growing crops using conventional methods. And that's mainly because they're not rotating their crops anymore. We grow the same crop in the same patch of land for as long as we can. Fertilizer could topple the entire system. And I wanted to go to some more mainstream news outlets because you might say, Natural News, they're always kind of doom and gloom. And I'm not sure about DC Clothesline, but it might be the same way. So I thought we'd go here. This is the Nasdaq, the stock market, Nasdaq. Nitrogen fertilizer shortage threatens to cut global crop yields. That's what CF Industries said. A shortage of nitrogen fertilizer due to soaring natural gas prices is threatening to reduce global crop yields next year, said CF Industries. They're a major producer of fertilizer. European gas prices jumped amid high demand. Says, who's going to get the scarce tons that are out there? There's going to be a lot of unmet demand. Prices of nitrogen fertilizer, one of the most commonly used fertilizer to boost production of corn, canola, and other crops, are at the highest levels in more than a decade. Russia is going to limit exports of nitrogen fertilizers. Yara International warned rising fertilizer costs would drive up food prices and could lead to famine. Now, this was from the Nasdaq, so it's not one of those fear-mongering type of websites. This is from Yahoo Finance. Fertilizer shortage means food prices are about to get even higher. And again, it's November 3rd, 2021. Food prices are already up 30% around the world. But a rising crisis in the fertilizer industry all but guarantees they're about to go even higher. U.S. farmers are having a hard time getting their hands on a critical supply. And since fertilizer is so widely used, the shortages could result in substantial price increases on items ranging from coffee to corn to rice. Corn is up 10% since the middle of last month. Wheat is at its highest level since 2012. Food prices in the U.S. have been rising at a staggering rate. Bacon and pork, 20%, and eggs are up 13%. So this is from Yahoo Finance. Here's Fortune. I'm afraid we're going to have a food crisis. The energy crunch has made fertilizer too expensive to produce. And again, you can go through here and read this. To produce a ton of ammonia last summer was $110, and now it's $1,000. Wow, I didn't know it was so almost 10 times as much. So it's just incredible. Food prices have also risen, meaning some farmers can afford more expensive fertilizer, but many smallholder farms can't. Food scarcity is already reaching desperate levels in many regions. Where families had once had comfortable meals, children are now subsisting on foraged plants and cactus leaves. That's in Madagascar. So this was from Fortune magazine. And then the Illinois Farm Policy News. Fertilizer supply disruptions push prices to new highs, and you can see the prices here. The average price is 36% higher than last month at $545 a ton, and it's now $604, and this one's $820. Fertilizer prices keep soaring to unprecedented heights. This Bloomberg writer said that. And then one more here. A nitrogen shortage is brewing, so what will it take to cure the world's fertilizer deficiency? I'm sorry to say, this is from AgWeb. They didn't tell us what we need to do to cure it. It's too bad. So I want to tell you what you can do to get ready, because that's what's most important. That brings us to the question, what can you do for yourself and for your family? Now, as individuals, there's not much we can do about a worldwide fertilizer shortage, but we can help our families out and become prepared for what's coming our way. So it's the end of November here where I am, and that means that winter is coming, and we won't be planting until next May or so. People in Florida and California could be planting all year round. The fertilizer shortage might just start affecting them now, and you'll see it in higher prices. Mexico sends us lots of vegetables this time of year, and again, if they're having trouble getting fertilizer, we will have problems with our food supply. Now, the other countries where it's summer now, they are probably pretty well set. Maybe they can't get more fertilizer right now, but if they've already planted and they're waiting, they will have food. So the question to ask yourself, what happens next year or in May if we can't get fertilizer? That means you're not going to have a whole year's worth of food in our country and, of course, in other countries. Will they be able to produce enough fertilizer by next May or so in order for the next planting season? What is the lag time? I'm not sure. But going on the assumption that they're not going to be able to do that, we're going to be in trouble, as well as other countries. So what can you do as an individual to help yourself? Well, the first thing, of course, is to stock up on food. Stock up on as much food as you can. Because if this happens in the next growing season, that they don't have fertilizer, that means you have you have few vegetables and grains growing for that whole season. So prices are going to just soar. So the thing to do is to start stocking up now. So that's your first choice. Stock up as much as you can, as much food as you can. Your second choice, of course, is to grow a garden, and you should be growing a garden. But you're going to need fertilizer to grow your garden, especially if this is your first time. So what I would suggest is that you go to the lawn and garden shops right now and try to get fertilizer. I know a lot of them put everything away for the winter, but there should be a few places where you can get fertilizer now. You should stock up at least for this year and maybe for a year or two in the future. Then the third thing you can do is learn to make your own fertilizer. Pinball Preparedness a couple of weeks ago did a video where he showed 3 or 4 different ways to make different fertilizers. So learn how to make your own fertilizer. And if you're doing hydroponics, I would imagine you will have to get a lot of fertilizer right now so you'll have it when you need it. So those are my suggestions. Let's hope this doesn't happen, that things get better, and that food will not soar in price, and we will all survive this. In the meantime, please subscribe, like the video, and I sure would like to hear anything you have to say about the fertilizer shortage, about growing your own food, about anything preppy. Thank you very much, and please subscribe.